Thank you, everyone, for our special session here with Sam Krishnamurthy, uh, who's joining us from Crawford. He's the Vice President of Corporate Systems there. And today we want to explore the use of GenAI in the insurance industry. And the title of today's discussion is InsureTech's Next Leap, GenAI Fireside Insights. And I'm looking forward to hearing a lot and getting insights from you, Sam. If you want to start introducing yourself and what Crawford does, then we'll take it from there.
Hey Rajesh, thanks for having me here. I'm Sam Krishnamurthy, Vice President for Corporate Systems here at Crawford and Company. Um, just a brief introduction about myself. I've been in the IT industry for almost 21 plus years. Started off as an engineer back in Chennai, India. I worked for a number of companies, a subsidiary for Bank of Mellon, and Tata Consulting Services. And then I consulted for Vanguard Mutual Funds, Morgan Stanley, and Lehman Brothers, and and joined Crawford back in 2009. Been here for almost 14 plus years. Been an exciting journey. Coming to my role, I lead strategy and technology delivery for our enterprise systems here at Crawford. That includes our AI, data science, and analytics teams.
All right, thanks, Sam. And any background on Crawford and any major like business lines offerings that might help set the context of the rest of the discussion?
Sure. Crawford and Company, we're in the business since 1941, 80 plus years, quite a rich organization. We are the world's largest claims management firm. We don't sell insurance policies, but we do manage all kinds of complexities with regards to claims for large carriers, mid-size and small, brokers, and self-insured entities.
All right, thanks for that. And my name is Rajesh. I am an SVP and I lead the generative AI go-to-market at Persistent. We are a digital engineering and enterprise modernization company based in India and offices in 19 plus countries. And our focus is on the generative AI movement that has started almost a year ago, and understanding what are the immediate use cases, what are some of the best practices that are emerging, and through these conversations, share some of our early best practices, the way companies are using this technology in their products or in their offerings, any technology related insights that are emerging, and any partnerships that are getting important for them. And as this is a fast evolving field, both in terms of implementation and use in the business, as well as it's an active area of research. So it's a very dynamic field. There are many, many companies that are emerging with different value propositions. So we thought through such fireside insights, if we can share some of these best practices with the community, in this case with the InsureTech community, and we encourage others also to do the same. So thank you for participating with that. And let's start with a light-hearted moment. Any fun facts related to Gen AI, since it has taken the world by storm? We are seeing so many different interesting use cases emerging that every time I ask this question, there's always something unique that I learn from it. So any fun fact in your life about Gen AI?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think all of our sweet stories start at home. So I do have a 14-year-old. Her name is Hannah, and she's been playing the piano for the last 9 years. So she, in fact, came up with a very interesting use case. Uh, so while she's reading the notes and playing a classical piano piece, she wanted to create a kind of an app where the app can tell her as she's playing the piece if she's playing is right or wrong, right? And the app should kind of be as an instructor so that it can help her play the piano even more better. So I thought that was a very interesting use case. Probably that I can share that as a fun fact.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. And the next generation who are kind of digital natives, they have a very unique way of looking at technology. And same with my kids. They look at GenAI as a tool already to help them assist them in many different ways. And then many unique use cases are emerging from their personal lives. Switching gears back to the business world, uh, what are some of the high level strategies that you can share? I mean, across the industries, we are seeing a lot of interest in doing discovery workshops, some short, proof of value, proof of concept type of engagements, and getting familiar with the technology, especially around productivity of all kinds, productivity of knowledge workers, productivity of developers. Customer service use cases are all kinds of chat based access to data. Those things are emerging. But as you, in your role at Crawford, as you evaluate new technologies like these, what kind of framework or what strategies that kind of go through your mind, and how do you look at this fast emerging field?
Yeah. So coming to Gen AI, certainly this evolving technology has unlocked new opportunities to enhance several workflows across the value chain within insurance. Um, the benefits of the technology is so evident that there's already used in certain applications. From a strategy perspective, the way we are thinking at Crawford is we ask mainly three questions. How we can address this. So the first one, what might Gen AI do to uplift operational, customer, and employee experiences, aligning with an ethical, security, data, and client consent standards? Um, as you may know, we're living in a backdrop of varied legal landscapes. Are we adhering to the regional laws? So it's very important to understand, how are we deploying our solutions. Secondly, one of the questions we want to address is where is the Gen AI investment calibrated for an optimal return of investment? Does it resonate with our growth goals? Collectively, these pivotal considerations steer our alignment and overreaching innovation and growth strategies. Last but not least, we got a number of partner ecosystems out there where we can harness value, right? So we also take a very holistic approach to assess a build versus buy versus partner strategy while we're looking at the large language model ecosystems.
Oh, excellent. I think you touched upon so many different areas there that one has to consider, not just the technology and the business use case, but the ethics, the regulations, the security, and would like to unpack some of that.
Right.
But let's begin with maybe a few concrete areas or some of the problem areas that you're trying to solve for with this technology, uh, and how does that help uh, you or help Crawford differentiate in the market space? And maybe in that context, we can explore a little more about the technology, the regulations, and cybersecurity, and so on. But any insights into the problem areas that you're seeing GenAI is well suited to solve for?
Yeah, yeah. So, s- so the first question being like, what are the biggest problems our carriers are trying to solve? I think we see a common kind of a theme across different carriers where everyone is going through a digital transformation, right? They're modernizing their legacy systems to improve efficiencies, elevate customer experiences, and data analytics capabilities. And coming to the insurance domain, mainly there is also a lot of risk assessment and pricing involved, where they want to enhance accuracy in underwriting and pricing, right? Especially in the face of changing risk landscapes like climate change, cyber risks, etc. And and then last but not least, I would focus on the claims management end, right? All the way from FNOL through settlement, because I think we have to assess how we can reduce the loss adjusting expense, right? Where we can streamline that end-to-end claims processes for efficiency and bring better outcomes for the policy holder or the carrier at the end of the day. So here is where Crawford really differentiates, right? We try to streamline that entire end-to-end experience. So we want to focus, on three aspects where we can leverage new innovation technology to simplify that whole claims process. Secondly, we have our in-house experts who are our claim handlers and adjusters who improve the accuracy of claim settlements. And lastly, we do have the scale and proximity, which allows that flexibility to give that rapid response, right? Because we do have a global reach. And to sum it all, I think Gen AI is going to be a huge game changer, right? Where we can build innovative products for addressing and simplifying these workflows, and then put that human in the loop to review the AI's outcome to make sure that we bring empathy and human context into that whole decision making to solve claims challenges.
Okay, that's great. Now, while you're looking at some of these problems to be solved with GenAI, uh, uh, in a regulated industry, especially like insurance, what are some of the implementation considerations? You talked about ethics and security and so on, but more from for an insurtech world, from a lens of a regulator, what are the things that one has to be careful about or be a little cautious about as they pick the use cases and try to implement some of these early prototypes, which is where most of the companies are today.
Yeah, I think one has to be very cautious when implementing Gen AI because we are living in a regulated framework and such as insurance, and that involves several concerns, right, and considerations as well. So the number one is data privacy. So we have to ensure compliance with data protection regulations like GDPR, HIPAA, when collecting and using personal data for any kind of AI-driven decisions, right? Do we have client consent to use that data for even fine-tuning a model? Um, and and if we are creating an image detection model, then we have to make sure, are we using copyright images or are we using images outside on the internet, right? Um, and then secondly, we also need to look at fairness and bias. There should be a good guardrail against all these algorithmic bias and ensure there's fairness in model explainability when it comes to AI. That will help us prevent any kind of discrimination, right, against certain groups. And last but not least, I would also focus on security. I think that's becoming a number one concern in the insurance space and also in other industries as well, where we have to implement robust cybersecurity measures to protect these AI products, systems, or solutions from any kind of malicious attacks or unauthorized access, if you will.
Yeah, I think the last point that you mentioned is on many customers' minds that does this bring in a new variable or a new vector into the cybersecurity posturing and systems that they may already put in place. And it involves not only the systems and controls, but also the change management for individuals as you interact more and more with conversational interfaces powered by GenAI. From a cybersecurity perspective and change management, preparing the entire organization. And again, we are exploring many of these topics, although we are getting a couple of early use cases in, but you need to be working in all of these in parallel because you can't just have use cases because once the business gets the hang of these use cases, they'll be even more demanding. And then you don't want the technology team to be the one that is becoming the bottleneck. So that's why we're exploring many of these things in parallel. So from a security, change management, preparing the end users get comfortable with the do's and don'ts, pretty similar to how the internet or mobile devices came along, and we found a way to accommodate that change and thrive on that change. So, any thoughts on the change management aspects of and especially from a security lens, that what should the end users be more cognizant of?
Yeah. So from a change management aspect, as humans in our context, if it's adjusters or claim handlers, when they are leveraging AI, where a human review is necessary, I think comprehensive training is essential. I think that that's number one. So user training is number one, where we take an opportunity within the organization to train our users extensively on the new AI-powered features or products, emphasizing the importance of their role in reviewing and validating these model outcomes. I think that's going to be a game changer, and it's a pretty crucial topic as well. And then feedback mechanism is the second thing, where humans are engaged in establishing the feedback mechanisms to report any kind of inaccuracies from the models which they are encountering during this interaction with the AI systems. And that's how we often say augmented AI in the loop, where there is constant learning within that whole process end to end. We are trying to constantly retrain that model. And and last but not least, monitoring and accountability is the last point I want to emphasize, where we not only implement systems to monitor and hold the users accountable for their review, but it becomes very crucial for any decision making responsibilities within these AI workflows end to end.
Yeah, it sounds good. Let's talk about technology a little bit without getting into too many like the technical details of it. But in our audience, there might be some technical architects who might want to get some more insights. We are seeing many different techniques emerge. On the lower end of the spectrum, obviously, is using large language models out of the box with prompt engineering and deriving some quick prototypes and some meaningful, useful applications out of it. And then there's the retrieval augmented generation technique, which is comparing or using the LLM to query it in a more augmented way by looking at some of your existing structured data and grounding the results based on that. And then there's fine tuning the large language models. So, like, without getting into too much of the technical details, are you seeing any patterns emerging of the right use of this technology to help address some of the issues that you were highlighting around ethical use and the explainability and security and so on the technical underpinnings of the kind of offerings that we're seeing from hyperscalers, from open source, and some of these patterns emerging. So, anything on the technology front, and then I'll share a little about how Persistent is approaching it. But would like to hear on that front from you.
Yeah. So prior to outlining the prominent methods we are using to tailor these large language models, but I'll take a step back and probably talk a little bit on what problems we're trying to solve. I would classify these problems into three different areas. So the first one is there are certain use cases where the business wants to customize responses, where they want applications to respond in a particular format or a tone and an output, where they want the tool to provide a very concise and a succinct output, if you will, for a piece of work. Secondly, contextual awareness. They want to take the LLM, which is pre-trained, and they want to point it to their knowledge base, and they want to train a model to do a particular task. And thirdly, we're also seeing some domain-specific pre-trained LLMs, where they want to summarize, respond to queries in a particular domain-specific use case, where they want to train a specific concept and they want to train it with more training data. So for these are the primary challenges, if you will. So the way we can solve this is there are four prominent methods we have seen so far. The first is the full fine-tuning methodology, where we modify the large language parameters using a task-specific data, if you will. Secondly, we are seeing a new method called PEFT. You might have heard about it. It's called parameter efficient fine tuning, where we can alter select parameters of these large language models, where we can train additional parameters for more efficient adaptation, if you will. Thirdly, there is a technique called prompt engineering, where we adjust the model's input to guide what the expected output should be. And last but not least, what we call is RAG. It's called retrieval augmented generation, where we combine a little bit of prompt engineering with some database querying for context-rich answers. So these are the different methods we are seeing. What machine learning engineers are trying to learn and kind of navigate, if you will, depending on what the use case is. But the common challenge with all of this is, I think one should have the right infrastructure scaling. You should have the well curated data. You should have a human expertise to review the model's outcome, and then iterative tuning. So these are the four aspects we are seeing, which is becoming a prerequisites for creating a good ecosystem, if you will.
Oh, excellent. You are pretty sophisticated in your approach and understanding of the technology and the way you're already going about the three challenges that you mentioned: the customized responses, contextual awareness, and some domain-specific tuned models. And I think not many companies are that far in their thought process yet, but I'm hoping that these will be the useful guidelines for them to further explore these techniques and so on. Um, on the persistent side, what the way we've been approaching this is from three different angles. As a digital engineering and transformation services provider, the first obvious one is, I need my GenAI use case. And most customers want to release something, some product feature or something that's in GenAI. There's a pressure of, the fear of missing out. And so we're helping them with discovery workshops and getting those early, at least one or two use cases built. But in doing so, what we're also realizing is very soon as they go on more sophisticated use cases, the way you were talking about solving more and more advanced use cases, uh, the the backend might not be ready to handle that. The data platforms might not be ready to handle the kind of uh, uh, the tuning, the preparing the data for fine tuning, for example, right? That is going to be a much bigger project than the actual task of tuning. Or the applications or the API layers, they may not be ready to handle a lot of the conversational style interfaces and querying that's going to happen on the back end. So our advice has been that while we explore these use cases, let's also assess, is your infrastructure ready to handle the volume? Are the applications ready for faster integration? Are your data systems integrated and ready with the right governance and controls in place for ethics and bias and preparing the data before you start using that data for fine tuning and so on? So a lot of that conversation is happening. And the third area, which is of great interest for at least the technology leaders, is the engineering effectiveness with GenAI. Or how effective is GenAI in code generation, code completion, transformation of some of the legacy systems from one language to the other, and what are some of the efficiencies that we can bring about and do these things with a much faster time to market, and so on. So those are some of the early engagements that we are seeing. But one thing is very clear, as is also becoming clear from your guidance, is it's not linear, but there are a lot of things that need to happen in parallel while you're exploring GenAI. There has to be a thought about the ethical, explainable use of it. In the security is another aspect. The human in the loop or the augmented AI that you mentioned, that's equally important. And then making sure that your underlying existing infrastructure is ready to handle this new transformation that's going to be demanded by the business very soon. Um, so it's very, very insightful for me to learn more about Crawford, about the problems you're trying to solve, and the way you're evaluating and approaching the technology. Uh, if there is one thing that we want our viewers to take away from this, who may be still on the fence or still a bit skeptical about whether this is the right thing for them to explore or not, what's the one thing that they should take away from this chat, from your experience and from the expertise that you highlighted on this fireside chat?
Yeah, I will just emphasize on technology plus people. At the end of the day, the people make the biggest difference. AI is not going to replace humans. I think technologies like the next generation AI is really going to be a powerful toolkit in the hands of an adjuster or a claims handler. In summary, I would like to probably leave you all with some closing thoughts. While deterministic AI provides only consistent results, probabilistic AI embraces some uncertainties. Neither can fully capture the complex nuances, if you will, of human understanding. This highlights the importance of human in the loop. Uh, because at the end of the day, by assessing an AI's outcomes, humans are the only ones who can bring empathy, ethics, that contextual understanding that machines may overlook. So, fostering these decisions should be well balanced, fair, and contextually relevant. So I would always advocate that when we are looking at this technology, we have to make sure that we are putting the right guardrails, give a lot of importance to governance, data privacy and security, and most importantly, client consent, while we can build resilient products in the insurance domain.
Oh, excellent. Um, that was a great summary, and I hope it's helpful for our viewers, especially those in the InsureTech world. And one last question. While you're putting all of these together, do you see some of these early use cases? Are they production ready? Are you looking at a timeline when you would put a few things into production and make it real, put it in the hands of people, or have you already started doing that, or any insights on that front?
Yeah. So we at Crawford, we've already have some AI solutions in production. So we have a product called Digital Desk. That platform manages digital claims with the desk adjusters overseeing an AI directed claim triage and segmented channels. Um, so adjusters review AI decisions using a confidence score to make the right decisions. So high scores expedite routing claims to the right channels, while a low score will help triage um, some prompt overriding, if you will, where the adjuster have to retrain the model's response. This not only ensures precise and unbiased claim routing, but also builds trust to drive better outcomes. We are in the early stages of an MVP with GenAI, leveraging that technology with our product innovation, and we are hoping to, work on some go-to-market strategies in the coming quarters.
Excellent. So this has truly been insightful, and it does look like why we decided to call this chat the InsureTech's next leap. Because with this kind of capability, definitely we can expect those kind of outcomes, new opportunities created for our business, more operational efficiencies within existing processes. And in one of our previous discussions, you had mentioned that it's one thing is to fix the process first, and then I think that was a nice insight, not quite GenAI related, but it's common sense. And I would like you to share that with us, that instead of just automating and trying to fix the process, it's important to first look at the process itself. So if you would like to share that, as I think that'd be a great, parting thought. And I think I'm really glad that we got a chance to chat about this. But I'd like to close with that thought, because I think that sometimes we get too caught up in the new technology, and some of the common sense transformations get missed out. So we just wanted to touch upon that a bad process automated doesn't make it transformative. So if you want to share that thought that you had shared with me earlier.
Yeah. Um, yeah, as leaders or executives, when we look at leveraging the Gen AI technology within their ecosystem, I think we have to make sure that this technology is positively impacting those processes and increasing efficiencies across that workflows. Um, However, looking to adopt AI should assess their current processes first. Identifying your pain points in your existing workflows can help. Understand where you can leverage the technology as an enabler to enhance or, in some cases, remove a problem, right? So these will be excellent process discovery workshops one can start off with, right? Where they can identify the pain points, look at the cycle time in each workflows, and then try to problem solve, how they can fix these. I wouldn't recommend leveraging Gen AI to kind of automate a bad process. I think that would be the bad way to go about it, because I would always focus number one, focus on you optimizing your business process, and then looking at ways on how you can optimize those workflows leveraging Gen AI, because I think that will be extremely crucial. And existing flaws might be amplified by integrating technologies like Gen AI.
Yeah, thank you. And on that note, Persistent does offer these discovery workshops, and specifically on GenAI, there's a 6-week GenAI deployment acceleration engagement that we offer, which you call as a Sure Start program that lets you start some of these explorations in parallel while we are looking at the use case, working with the business to find these use cases, evaluating whether your backend is ready to handle that, and any opportunities for engineering productivity in parallel to help accelerate some of the engineering work. So it's exciting times ahead, and I'm looking forward to the next chat point, maybe around the winter time when there's real fireplace side chat next to you. But thank you so much, Sam, for spending time with us, sharing these insights. Truly appreciate Crawford's business working with us at Persistent, and I wish you the very best with your GenAI projects and with your role.
Likewise, Rajesh, I enjoyed talking to you today. Thanks for sharing your insights as well, and thanks for the opportunity.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.